Okay, so we were looking at developing creative approaches to developing a reading culture at Leeds College of Building. Leeds College of Building is, as the title suggests, we are construction-based, very heavily male, very sort of traditional kind of physical learners who are there to learn trades and to resit their GCSEs in maths and English if they need to. Yeah, really practical students who are focused on getting work. So I was really interested, having previously kind of coordinated literacy projects at secondary level and been in charge of developing that whole school. I was really interested and really motivated to do something completely different in FE, particularly in light of the kind of students who we work with. I have a feeling that we have a sort of literacy fatigue, which has developed as a result of the massive focus on literacy at secondary. So when I started doing the literacy work at secondary, the first thing I did was an audit. It was like go around the departments and audit everybody and find out what they're doing for literacy and have they got their word boards, and let's start accelerated reader and start monitoring and gathering loads of data about these students. And I really feel that staff and students alike have got a fatigue from 6 or 7 years of that happening in secondary. And I wanted it to be very, very different at Leeds College of Building. And in fact, that's the only reason I did it, because I knew from the first few meetings that I was going to have that flexibility to be creative. So what we're looking at really was a university where there's quite a sort of homogenous culture. Even what the student union was offering tends to be an excellent provision, but very sort of sports based, very kind of gaming based. So I wanted to go in and say, right, let's do something which is more kind of like arts based and see if that can help us with some of our reading skills. And most importantly, with developing cultural capital and growing cultural capital, because I feel that that's as important to literacy as anything else we could focus on. Okay, so we're looking at how can we grow a college-wide reading culture and encourage reading for pleasure amongst our students. How can we make this drive distinctive from what's gone before, from what all of these students have lived through in secondary and what all of the staff have already been through in previous literacy drives? How can we meet the very diverse needs of our students? We've got extremely high rates of SEN, so dyslexia, dyspraxia, the whole spectrum. And I wanted to make sure that we were including everybody with what we were doing. And the final question was, how can we get as many people on board as possible? How can we take this out of the English department and into all the various different departments within the college? So it was a massive sort of undertaking. We decided to take a sort of three-tiered approach. First thing that I wanted to do was to develop a reading mentors scheme for high and moderate needs students. And that in itself operated on two levels. We operated in-house mentoring for moderate needs students, and then we formed a partnership with another agency to come and mentor our very, very high needs students whose literacy was absolutely minimal. Second thing I wanted to do was to develop creative literacy activities which could be used during tutor time. We used a kind of fairly standard approach, drop everything and read, but we added things to that to give it greater impact. And the final aspect that I wanted to kind of develop was this idea of creating reading spaces throughout college and create opportunities for creative and informal engagement with reading. We have a learning resource centre which is not particularly at the moment user-friendly, not particularly welcoming. So I wanted to kind of look at ways of creating spaces that could be accessed and could encourage reading. Okay, so I'll take you through those three strands, if that's okay. The mentoring, as I've said, we offered two levels. We received referrals from tutors and support staff for students who they thought would benefit from mentoring. Read Easy came in, you can see their little logo at the top there, and they mentored our students who were really struggling with basic literacy. But in terms of my input, the kind of our own recruitment and training of mentors for moderate needs students was a really big part of the work that we did. So we created some really lovely marketing. We put out this information across the college. We had staff from administration, project managers from diverse areas like transport planning, support assistants, ESOL teachers, all sorts of people came forward. We trained them in how to be reading mentors. And then we matched them up with students who'd been referred to us. That is kind of how that worked. I think the key breakthrough there was the fact that we were very deliberately cross-curricular with the mentors. We didn't just want English teachers, we wanted people from across the board. Okay. I'm just going to pull out keywords here. These are very big quotes. But what the mentors said about what they did: a great success for the students, great benefit for them, growth in confidence, fluency has improved greatly, vocabulary has been enhanced, terminology and understanding of different topic subjects that they may not have been exposed to before. An interest in novels, graphic novels and comics has been very striking and engaging for the students. So with the reading mentoring, I tried to use non-traditional sources. We started off with comic books, top trumps cards, word puzzles, subscriptions to magazines like Stuff and Men's Health, and you know, encouraging our students just to read little articles, little snippets of things that interested them. Another mentor said, very, very impressed with X's pronunciation of words. He's come a long way since the beginning of the session. Better understanding and comprehension of the context of the reading than when we first started. Providing positive feedback on his reading skills has been helpful and encouraging for him. So mentors and students alike benefited from that one-to-one, quiet, calm time where reading could happen in a really non-public way, and a way which was very nurturing. And I think if anyone's aware of the initiatives like Accelerated Reader, it's very public. It's kind of putting your vulnerabilities as a young person out there in a classroom, and everyone's aware of your reading age and how many points you've got for reading a book. And I really wanted to avoid that and put things in place which were nurturing and caring and bespoke for our students, because they're incredibly vulnerable, particularly post-lockdown. Students' confidence has grown considerably, fluency has improved greatly, they have better understanding and comprehension of the context of reading material. And then a lovely quote here from one of our mentors: after only a few sessions, I can see my student becoming more comfortable with me and able to be more vulnerable in front of me. I think we're already making progress. And then this particular mentor said, these students need more intensive reading support. It's been eye-opening to see the lack of literacy among some of our students, and it's an issue that college shouldn't ignore. So that's really interesting. That was from a mentor who was working in transport and planning and who wasn't necessarily doing literacy every day, wasn't involved with the teaching of English. And what I found was that the mentors were surprised, deeply surprised at the literacy needs of our students. They hadn't been aware of it before. What the students said. So this was one of the students who we used as a case study, really a student with complex needs who basically was unable to read, above a few sentences and kind of monosyllabic words, really. The mentoring sessions are going good. I've been enjoying it. It's helped me to improve some words and some words not, but that's all part of it. It encouraged me to get a book. I wouldn't usually do this, and to encourage my friends to do it, as it helps me. And I tell them, nice one, when they go to their reading mentor. So it was lovely to get that genuine feedback from students saying they're enjoying it and they're encouraging each other. So if we're going to run with this metaphor of kind of osmosis and the effect of positive experiences on the culture of an organisation, I think that's a really lovely kind of indicator of that. Reading sessions are fun, I look forward to them, concentrate, feel more confident, I'm trying new things. And then an interesting one at the bottom from a student who had seen films, and then he, with his mentor, he wanted to read the books of the films that he'd enjoyed. So, we're looking for kind of developing literacy interest through the back door, picking up on these students' interests, capitalising on that. Okay, the second part of the work we did was the creative literacy and tutor time. I formed partnerships with vocational tutors, and they have their groups for kind of 3 hours every day, every week. And we tried to insert some reading and literacy into those sessions. Students requested books. We bought those books in, our staff donated them. We created book boxes. So there was time for quiet reading. Then we did drop everything and read. I created a PowerPoint every week for the tutor to use and to engage with the students. And then eventually what happened was that 2 of the groups went on to work with Leeds Arts University to look at kind of creating characters and narratives and actually forming those ideas into 3 dimensions. So I'll show you some pictures. This will explain what I mean.
4 minutes, Lisa.
Thank you. So this is just a sample of the Drop Everything and Read PowerPoints, where there'd be some general questions like, why are we so interested in zombies? Then there'd be some little clips of zombie films and trailers for them to watch, to engage them and really hook them into the theme. Then there'd be the opportunity for Drop Everything and Read. So we'd introduce the text, and in this particular one, everyone was reading the same text. Maybe some sort of fun questions about the subject afterwards, and then some questions to provoke further engagement. So these ones here are quite interesting. It's like, imagine you're in a zombie apocalypse. How would you survive? What would your plan be? How would you protect yourself? Really, really trying to get these students involved with the kind of the themes and the characters and the motivation, the dynamism of reading, rather than word and sentence level stuff. Okay, so those groups went on to design and make a superhero with Leeds Arts University. This was done remotely during lockdown. So the Leeds Arts University zoomed into the classes and they dropped off all this material, and our students made these superheroes. And then most recently, only a couple of weeks ago, we had a final set of 3 face-to-face sessions with Leeds Arts. And we actually took our students up to Leeds Arts University, where they made top trumps cards. So again, it's tiny little bits of literacy, and it's very visual and very practical, but highly engaging for the students. So that's some examples of their top trumps cards there. They came up with profiles for all their characters, and then they even made the boxes as well and painted them while we were up there. And the idea of taking our kids up to a university where nobody in their family may ever have been to a university, it's a massive sort of boost of cultural capital, hopefully, for those students. Okay, lots of positive tutor feedback about how those sessions went, and I'm just gonna whiz through actually, so that I can get to the last part. Tutors gained confidence. Some students participated, some were not so interested, and that was fine. We were really flexible with our tutors. Students enjoyed it. They said it was relaxing, it gets your brain going, it makes you feel more focused. Chill out time in a busy world was a quote from one of our students involved with that. Okay, final bit then, reading spaces and identity. We couldn't really do much in the Learning Resource Centre, but what we could do was colonise areas in college. And for World Book Day, for example, we created a pro forma. It's called Heroes and Villains. And we got students and staff from across the college to fill in a pro forma for their favourite hero or villain. They were displayed across the college, and then we had a whole range of activities going on World Book Day for everyone to get involved with. And then the main thing was that we actually built little libraries. Carpentry and joinery students built them, painting and decorating students decorated them. And these things are dotted around college and look after themselves. People will donate books, people can take books away. There are presents on campus. Okay, we even did Dungeons and Dragons and all sorts of creative sign writing activities, things that you wouldn't necessarily have thought our students would be interested in, but there was massive interest for it. Okay, I'm going to kind of whiz through the key takeaways. We needed to take risks and be creative. Post-16 literacy needs to be lively and surprising. Encourage staff to pick and choose from resources, be flexible and non-prescriptive. We have to consult at every level and be really bespoke with this, otherwise it would never have worked. Don't assume that we know what students are interested in. So for literacy, I was looking at non-traditional sources. Kids are asking for books about Banksy, about the Beatles, about Peaky Blinders. They wanted to play top trumps and Dungeons and Dragons. We'd never have predicted that at the start. Mentoring's been massively beneficial for everyone involved. Recruit from across your institution, not just your traditional sort of English and support areas. Reading is cultural capital. It's a big takeaway for me. We're moving away from this idea of words and sentences. The more you read, the more cultural capital you have, the more you're able to move through society. And then, my approach was that we're all researchers. We all had, I took that from December, actually. We had a let's see what happens approach, and the less pressure, the better, really, for all the staff involved, because reading's intimidating for some staff, not just for students. Okay, and this will continue into the new academic year. This is going to continue to be funded by Leeds College of Building, and we already have a strategy in place for what we're going to do for the new academic year. So this is not the end of it.
Sorry, so I'm Sarah Johnson, so I've been the mentor. I took over the mentoring mid year because the mentor had gone off on maternity leave, Abby. So as Kelly said, she's had an operation in her mouth. She's got 16 stitches in her mouth, so I might have to take over if that's okay. So are you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine. So yeah, we're adult education, so we're post-19, and I've been here for 8 years now, and we've always done a 36 weeks program. We've never done anything less. It's been a roll on, roll off, but we've never done anything shorter. And we decided to try a fast track this year. The reasons for doing that, oh sorry, just 1 second. Yeah, so the reasons for doing it was because there was a university centre open in North Lincolnshire. This made people realise that higher education was available to them a lot closer. Because of COVID, it made them rethink their lives, and kind of the two things came at once. So people were coming in saying, right, I've decided to go to university, I need functional skills English by this date, and we just couldn't get them through in time. So we decided to just completely relook at the curriculum and start a fast track. So the first aim to start with was to be doing it over 13 weeks. We went to other colleges and things to see what they did. They said 13. We trialed that to begin with, and we realised because we were adult education and people had been out of education for a long, long time, 13 weeks wasn't really going to work for us. So we went up to 17 weeks for our second cohort. So the kind of things that we got from the learners was that they wanted to go back to college in September to do a level 3 in engineering. They needed qualification by September. Another one for university, another one was where they was already in education, they had got degrees and things like that, but then the job specifications changed, so it had gone from not needing English to needing English, so they needed it as quickly as possible too. So yeah, like I say, we tried a 13-week course for our first cohort in September. We realised that that didn't work with work commitments and things, so we went to a 17-week. We designed a much more robust initial assessment. So for us, it wasn't just the English level. We thought if they came out at a high English level, yeah, we could take them on. We realised for the second cohort that we needed more of a holistic approach. So we needed to look at work, we needed to look at children, we needed to look at commitment, all different types of things that could impact their learning. Because they were doing 2 hours in the classroom, but then lots of self-study at home. And if they had young children and things like that, they might not be able to do that. If they were working full time, they might not be able to do that. We were using the My Dynamic Learning platform. I, as a tutor, absolutely love it. But the learners were finding it hard using a Google Classroom and a My Dynamic Learning platform. So we've tried to combine the two a little bit more and just go to a Google Classroom one. We also had, as I say, with people with small children, we've had one lady with a 4-month-old baby come in. She couldn't come to an evening class, so we did it through more tutorial based. So they came in 4 tutorials with us for an hour a session a week, went home and studied when they could do, and they put the baby to bed. And so it's a much more tailor-made, personalised offer that we're giving now. So the first cohort that we had was 5 learners. In September. The second cohort was 8 learners, so we've got 13 altogether through the year. That doesn't sound like a lot, but we're a very, very small area, and that's actually quite good for us, but we're hoping to increase our numbers a lot more next year. Everyone's passed their speaking and listening, everyone has passed their reading. With the writing, there was one learner who had very exceptional circumstances, so he had to be withdrawn from the first cohort. All the others from February have just taken their writing last week, and we're expecting 100% pass rate. I've got no reasons why they wouldn't pass. So we are looking at overall a 92% pass rate from everybody who was enrolled, but 100% from those who took their exams.
And then I'll just say we've still got the historic model in place as well. So and we are looking at an online offer as well. So we're looking at having a variety of delivery models for English across the curriculum area around.
Yeah, next year. Right, we're not sure if this is going to work, so just bear with me. But we have got 2 case study videos of learners who have done the fast track, which are really good. We're using them for promotion and things, and they're absolutely the brilliant videos really of how they've got it in such a fast time frame.
We've been doing our presentations for our speaking and listening exams. My presentation was about horses, and then we had a discussion afterwards. I'm currently an ambulance care assistant. I'm wanting to progress to be a paramedic, so I need to have 3 grade C's at least in English, Maths and Science, and I didn't get the grade C in English, so this will help me progress in my career. Doing the fast track English is really good because it works alongside my job, and I can do a lot of work at home as well as the classwork.
And we've got another one, so I'll just see if I can play that one. Can you see Diane now? Yeah.
This fast track course is everything to me. Coming to the Ashby hub, it's not too big. It's of a nice size. There's a nice amount of people on the courses. Kelly, our tutor, is great. I'm not a great person with ICT. Maybe it's something that I might look at in the future after my English. But my dynamic learning, I think, is great. So it will show you the lessons, then it will show you the things to do to complete that you have to complete for Kelly to say, yes, like the tasks to do. This is my 2nd course now. With it being condensed, you do have to put a lot of work into it, but it's great. It's a great course.
Okay.
Thank you.
Right, so I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint. Right then, so we have had some more case studies. So this is one of my ones who have just finished. So she had a son who had been in a bad accident. She'd been off with sickness for a long time. She decided that she wanted to take some time for herself and improve herself. She can, as you can see, absolutely loved attending the class, met some wonderful people. Tutor was fantastic, the perfect amount of time of what I needed. She actually gained full-time employment this week. And she said that if she'd have had to have waited started in September, obviously that would have been putting her back even further. I really like the comment at the end that thank you for my tutor for believing in me when I didn't believe in myself. I thought that was a really, really lovely one. We've then got Ellie. She's been doing the same job. She finished school, she went on some work placements, got offered a job, and she's just been there since. Realised that it's not what she wanted to do. So she could attend this as a fast track while she was at work. It was an evening class, so she could carry on working. Although it was very short, it was timed perfectly. It's given her the confidence with English, and now she's been able to use it in everyday life. She's now applied for a level 3 health and social care diploma and an IT course with us again. So again, it's one of the best things that she's decided to do. Brad, we are North Lincolnshire Council as well. He got offered a job and then realised that he had a D, not a C. So it was in your probation time, you need to achieve this qualification. So he joined the class, got through it really, really quickly. Said that even though he thought he knew a lot about English, he's learned a lot. And now that he's completed it, they've also put him onto a level 5 apprenticeship role within the same organisation as us. So that's a really, really good one. And then the last one, Macy, she, bless her, she was the one who had a 4-month-old little baby when she started with us. She'd also started part-time work at the same time. So this is the lady that we put on as a tutorial. She came for tutorials every week or every other week, completed the work at home, and she's just completed the course too. And she's signed up with business admin with us as well going forward. Looking at our overall outcomes, apart from the one gentleman who had to be withdrawn, everybody has had an outcome. So it's whether they have gained a job or they've gone on to the next level of their current position, careers. So one of them who was an ambulance driver has been accepted as a paramedic. One of them who was working in the airline field has now got her chosen career. She's now an apprentice ambulance driver as well. So everybody has had an outcome. And if we'd have done the traditional model, that wouldn't have been the case. They would have had to have joined us again in September and been going for another year. We did a bit of a wordle of what everyone's said. So wonderful people, employment, fun, confidence, perfect timelines, education. So that's quite a nice little thing that we've got there, just some general feedback. So you say we did. So one thing that we have taken from learner feedback was that they wanted to improve the layout of Google Classroom. So we have put everything into Classroom folders. Going forward next year, we are going to have a lot more self-study resources on there. So it is going to be where we're going to put loads of links on. If they're not sure of something, they can go away and do it. I think with Fast Track with us, it's not where they're in the classroom. They have to take their own responsibility for the learning. So we're going to make sure that there's links and things for them there. I work part-time, and that was one criticism, that I wasn't available 24/7 to answer emails and things.
Someone wrote that actually in the feedback.
Yeah, Kelly needs to be available 24/7. I'm afraid not. No. So we have created an English team email address. We are all English teachers. We can all reply to the same email. So queries are going to come into that now, and then any of us can reply to them if I'm not here. And again, improve my dynamic learning, which is something that we're looking into.
Sarah, we are up to time. Is that your last slide?
This is the last slide, yeah. Okay. So we're continuing with the Fast Track Level 2. We're introducing a Fast Track Level 1 next year. We are going to do an intensive course at Level 1, Level 2. So for those who, again, we're coming away from the 36 weeks, they are going to come in for a full day, once a week for a term, and we're going to get everyone through in a term. So we're coming away from the traditional model completely. We are creating a distance learning platform. So we are going to record all the lessons, and learners are going to go on and actually teach themselves online, really. And then we're taking the model across to maths as well. So it's resulted in everything changing.
Yeah, cultural change.
It has, yeah,
delivery
definitely.
Brilliant.
All
Thank
right.
you. And thank you, Sarah and Kelly.
I was just going to ask, was there anything in terms of looking back on the structure of how you managed the course, was there anything that you thought you would do more of next time or less of in terms of how you balance, for example, reading, writing and speaking and listening?
Is that Fast Track?
Yes, sorry, yes.
Right, so this is one of the reasons that we lengthened it from 13 to 17, because we found that I'm part-time, and I was then having to come in all the holidays to mop up the speaking and listening. So we think that one thing that we're going to do is we're going to get loads more examples. We're actually going to record us doing some speaking and listenings as tutors and members of staff, and we're going to put them on the Google Classroom so the learners can see the examples. I spent a lot more time on reading to get the underpinning knowledge of things like purpose and language and things like that. One thing that's come back from the exam board is the lower marks was on getting main points, IDs and details in text. However, they still all passed with flying colours. That was the only criteria that were under 50% on. So it's weighting and balance, isn't it? With them being adult learners, the things that they struggle with is writing enough. So that's something that I need to evaluate next year. But mainly focus on reading, because if they can get the reading to identify it, then it's just applying it later on, and everyone's scared stiff of SPAG. So we're going to really get that more on the Google Classroom, as well as really making a self-study SPAG zone for them, because in 17 weeks, we can't teach them every spelling rule. They are Fast Track Level 2s, we can't do that. So it's going to be much more of a self-study zone. But I can send you like an exemplar of the scheme of work that I did, or even what weeks I do, what topics. It was basically a 2-hour class, and it was, we give information in that session, they go away and learn it, then do an assignment on Google Classroom to show their knowledge.
Sarah, we've got another few questions. So could I ask you, if you've got that document to share, could you pop it in chat, and then I'll ask Catriona if she could share it on our internal Padlet, our Golden Nuggets Padlet.
I'm on Sarah's laptop, not mine, so it'll have to be like later on today that I look at sharing that. Is that all right?
Yeah, that's fine. Okay, Kelly, if you can get that to Catriona, and Catriona, could you put it on the Golden Nuggets Padlet, and then we'll make sure that everybody has access to that. Brilliant.
No problem.
Okay, a few more questions. Shireen at College of West Anglia, did you have a question?
Yeah, I found it really interesting. So we do 18-week course for our functional skills adult learners. And I was interested in the little, was it on Google Classroom, you giving them extra activities to do where they spag things. They do those in their own time, and how well they engage with those?
I think because of the fast track, and they're coming because they want it in a short amount of time, they do. So we have any slides, I have topics, any slides go straight into the Google Classroom. We don't do the assignments in the classroom as such. I do little activities, but they go away, re-watch the slides, do the activities and hand them in to me.
Okay.
They don't actually fill in their individual learning plan until after that point, because like I say, it's just an information session that I give them, really. But yeah, we are putting on videos, we're looking at doing little recordings ourselves and putting them onto there. So we're just basically saying, if you want this qualification, you're an adult, you need to take responsibility of it now. If you want it, you need to do that.
And can I just say, we've had a full inspection with Ofsted during this this year. So they were very pleased with it.
Absolutely loved it. And
I'd be really interested to see what you're doing with them. If you
definitely.
That'd be great.
Yeah,
Thank
absolutely.
Great.
No problem.
Thank you. And I don't know if you would have noticed yet, Kelly and Sarah, but Vicky James at Essex ACL has popped into the chat that she's very happy to talk to you and liaise with you and to share some ideas. Thank you for that.
That'll be brilliant.
Appreciate that.
Thank you. We're always learning, changing and adapting.
So it's my privilege yet again to introduce Tamara Lindsay, who's at Preston College and has done a remarkable amount of work on changing how learners feel about their writing, about how teachers feel about teaching learners to write more and to write better. And I know that Tam's been doing the rounds of various different SET and other organisations lately because of the work that she's been doing on this. So it's rare that a project, in fact, I don't think it's ever happened before, that a project has moved me to tears. But I actually cried when I read some of the things that students said about what they were doing on this project. And I feel so privileged to have worked with the 3 projects that I've worked with this year, because absolutely inspiring and humbling. The things that I've been trying to do, you know, in a 40-year teaching career, these people have cracked in no time at all. It's just an honour. Thanks. Over to you, Tam.
Right. Catriona, don't make me cry before this. I was already a bag of nerves. Can everybody hear me properly?
We can, Tam. Thank you.
That's great. As Catriona mentioned, I've had such an opportunity to share my research before this event even. So I've done some work with SET, and recently Bradford College asked for some training on it as well. So I gathered my team together just on Wednesday, and it was amazing. So we're all fired up, we're pumped. And then I was thinking about this final presentation and it overwhelmed me, I'm not gonna lie. So I'm excited, but I'm nervous and I'm worried about going on about too much, because I really want to get to the point, which is what this project has done for the learners. So hopefully I won't go over time, and I'm just going to mainly focus on that really, but I will contextualize it. So we did have a problem at Preston College where we are teaching resit learners, and they do come in already feeling like failures and like they just can't do it. This just is a mindset, right? And when I thought, how can I get that across in a quick, easy way? I went to my classroom. That's the main board in my classroom, right? So I really believe in changing mindset to see that success, right? In FE, we do a lot of resilience changing. Well, resilience management, sorry, I should put it that way, where it's a lot about confidence boosting, and half the time it's not really about skill. If we practice, we'll get those skills, right? So it's in FE, it's as much about getting them on board in their own minds, and then we'll see it in life, in reality. So this project was about changing our learners from a fixed mindset where they did not feel like writers, they didn't really feel like readers, they didn't do either of those outside of the classroom. And we had to convince them that there was something inside of them that just needed to come out. And we were going to give them the tools to do that. So just breaking it down really simply to contextualize what we were doing. Free writing is a term that comes from a man named Peter Elbow. And he believed in just, practice makes perfect, basically. Spend 10 minutes a day writing. It doesn't matter what you write, just get into that mode. I'm a writer, I'm gonna write for 10 minutes and things will get better. Things will improve. You'll get more and more ideas. You'll trust your ideas, etc. Growing up, this is emotional for me as well. Growing up, I absolutely loved English. I loved reading, I loved writing. And then I got to high school and my mentor to this day, Mr. Peter Murphy, he was the best English teacher I could have possibly gotten. And he was a student of free writing. And we had our own little books and we knew, come in, do some free writing. You could write what you want. If you wanted him to read it, he would read it. If not, that's fine. It was private. So I grew up with this and I absolutely love reading and writing. So I thought, I know, that's what I'll do. I'll bring free writing to the FE classroom. Obviously, totally different cultures. We don't sit English exams in the States for a qualification. You just continue to study English all throughout university. So I knew it was different, but I thought it's worth a try. So got my team together. This is the dream team. We've got Liz, Lucy, myself, and Eleanor. They all wanted to try it. We thought, right now it sucks. They don't want to do it. We all dread it. Let's just try it. And I was so moved that they wanted to try it as well, but everybody got on board. We had simple resources. So at the top, you can see the free writing notebooks that we gave them. It had the narrative story arc on the top, an inspirational quote. And before we even started, I went out and got all these prompt books. I was very chuffed with myself. I knew that the answer was in those books. And we soon learned that the most important thing on this slide was that gel pen, because I got very excited about the gel pen. But what we also later realized that we didn't know at the time was we needed a lot of patience as teachers. And we thought we were doing resilience building for them, but it was also resilience building for ourselves. So we had, in the beginning, we had to hang on. We were holding on tight. But on the bottom right of your screen, you can see a red journal there. So every teacher had a journal. So even though we were holding on tight and suffering inside, we had an outlet of that journal where we would make observations, etc. And another thing I didn't realize was how much time we were going to need. And then when I realized that, it worried me. I thought, do we have this time, to spend on this? And in the end, throughout the process, I realized that's what they need, and that's what we need to give them, regardless of whatever's on the scheme for learning. So that was it in a package, really. What we found was, let me just clear my screen. We found that a huge part of the process was consistency and also adapting to their needs. So we got their feedback in the beginning when they weren't really free writing. And when we adapted to what they told us they needed, the resistance just reduced, right? And as that resistance reduced, they just started to comply and write more and more. And then later on in the process, it was clear they had found their voices and they were enjoying and exploring their own ideas. So I should also say that it was really important that that free writing book was an assessment-free zone, right? So it was, I'm not here to judge you. I'm not here to mark it, look at your spag, whatever. I just want you to write, chill out, feel comfortable with your writing. If you want me to read it, I'll read it. If not, I won't. And it turned out that they really wanted me to read it and acknowledge that writing. So after a while, we started putting ticks in, and I put like a little encouraging comment in there for them. We also found, which was shocking, that free writing before their assessment for component 2, so that's your transactional writing and your reading skills, that improved their performance. So I had learners who could never get out more than a paragraph at a time. They were hugely nervous before that exam. And probably because we hadn't been focusing on your exams coming. It was just like chill, write for pleasure. And then all of a sudden they were like, ooh, the exam. So I said to them, right, let's just do some free writing, chill out, don't worry, write on this. And it was linked in with the exam topic. And they did really well in that exam. They wrote more, just after doing free writing just before it. But the biggest thing for me, which was one of my main objectives, was that transition to creative short stories by January was seamless. So we didn't have that huge tug of war anymore. The whole, let's spend 2 or 3 weeks getting them on board with creative writing in the first place. It was just, I'm a writer and I'm gonna go off and do it. So, and that was so rewarding because that's what we really wanted out of the project, is for them to feel that that was a natural thing. So those were the main outcomes. But there were some really compelling ones that I didn't even foresee. I didn't even dare to dream about these outcomes, and they happened. So our learners actually wanted to write better stories. It was like they became interested in stories as a result of having this free space where they could write and having like a workshop atmosphere in class. They were enjoying their stories. They were sharing them with each other. My group, some other groups actually shared the text. My groups were more into talking about it with their peers. So they would say, oh, I just wrote this story about such and such, and they would bounce ideas off of each other. And then, even more shocking, they wanted to get the stories right. So I was not chasing them for their spag or anything. They were chasing me, So they were like, is this right? I need a comment there, don't I? It was just phenomenal to see that they had taken an interest in their writing to such an extent they were concerned with the quality of that writing, right? And that was all from focusing on the actual stories and the practice of writing. So those were the most compelling outcomes. There were outcomes for teachers as well, but we're focusing on learners today. But you'll see those in the full report. So I just wanted to share some samples with you, and also to let you hear the outcomes in the students' own words. So this is a young lady.
5 minutes.
5?
5 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is a young lady that was a bit resistant in the beginning. She took to cartoons and things, and then she did start to use her free writing book for planning stories. By the assessment, I was blown away by what she'd written. She'd been working on a story idea for quite a while. She had a few different ideas as well, but in this story, she engaged in so many different techniques. It was actually enjoyable to read. And she achieved a grade 6. And I couldn't even fit my comments in the little box there. I was so chuffed with her. But the other thing is that we're still like, wow, is other learners, it was more about opening their minds and putting more breath in their writing. So this learner was very restricted, a bit paralyzed in the beginning. That was her early free writing. And in the end, 13 weeks later, she managed to produce a lovely story with all this breadth and depth, imagery, plot description, etc. And her exam grade was actually 2 grades higher than her starting point assessment. So she had clear progress. I've got a little video for you so you can hear it in the learner's own words. So in general, what has been your experience with the free writing?
I think we write about what you feel.
Well, I'm quite imaginative when it comes to making stories up, so To be honest, it's alright because I just like to forget my imagination now. Personally, it's been great because when you're free writing, you can write about anything you want. You got so much freedom and you can just talk.
It's frozen on my side. Is it playing for you guys?
No, it's frozen here as well, Tam.
Okay, hang on. Writing and your ways of writing.
It started and then froze again.
When I mute myself, it freezes. So I'll just have to
It's when you mute yourself.
okay.
Ever since my English teacher introduced it, it really impacted on me and the story writing, using different techniques and helping me. I think free writing is a good way to kind of ease the student's mind because it allows them to flow through their work without having to necessarily think about every single action.
Did you have a favorite story that you wrote this year?
Just one that was about the concept to write about somebody who loses a sentimental item, so I wrote like someone who like the nana gave them a necklace and then they used the necklace, then by the end of the story they're inspired to like make up with the grandmother.
Oh, the apocalyptic one. What was your favorite bit about that?
It's probably because I did something with the character that I've not done before.
Well, to be honest, my favourite type of stories I like to write is like tell a story like I'm going on a holiday with like abroad with friends, family and stuff. I just love to talk about that.
I think at the starting, like we did with the topic called accident. I read the story about I had a bird and my dad come to you. Your brother puppy from
Yes.
And
Yeah, there was one where I got the invite out.
Okay.
My favourite story that I produced is the one of the Sasquatch from Cameroon. What's my Charlie's about?
So I know that you did well in your before, but we've only just started the free writing this year. How have you found it? Like first of all, what did you like about it?
Thank you. It's just, I think there'll be some questions for you. So could we start taking those questions from people now? We have only got a few minutes. So if you want to pop your hands up or put something in chat. So Kirsty's put something in chat. Any examples of most successful prompts that you used? How did you get them started?
It's interesting. I took that part out the presentation because we were just going to focus on the successes. So I got all those books. They didn't want them. So that was one of the main pieces of feedback from the learners is they felt our prompts were boring. We were out of touch. So I did give them the opportunity to create their own prompts, which they did, but that wasn't any more successful. What ended up working is prompts that were related to what they were studying that day. In my groups anyway, some of my colleagues, they did different things like the learners developed a list of prompts and then they could choose anything from those prompts. And there was always the option to write about whatever you want. So that was always the option as well.
Amazing, thank you.
Great.
Love it, great project.
And there's a question from Shireen in chat as well. She loves the free writing books. Were learners encouraged to redraft their work at any point?
Oh, it was interesting because it went both ways where some learners got so attached to their free writing book, they wanted to do all their work in there. Like they felt like tremendous ownership towards it. And other learners, they did see that as like a book from scratch in their own book. And then they wanted to write it out nice in their coursework book.
Yeah, brilliant. And Catriona's really summed it up so brilliantly in chat, saying that it's a great mixture of structure and complete freedom, complete liberty for them to write. And the project always reminds me of something Roald Dahl once said when he was talking about getting younger learners to write, and he talked about helping them to see themselves as writers. And I think that's what we see in your learners, isn't it? That they have begun to see themselves as writers, which is so inspiring.